Have you ever felt like you're just not getting what you want out of an AI? Like you're speaking the same language, but it's just not quite getting it? Well, that gap between what you ask for and what you get, that's where prompt engineering comes in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this whole thing and show you how to get into the driver's seat. And that's the thing, right? Anybody can write a prompt. It's the starting line for everyone. You type in a question, you get an answer back. It seems simple enough on the surface. Because there is a huge difference between just asking a question and actually crafting a prompt that gives you a predictable, high-quality, perfectly toned response every single time. That's the leap we're going to make today, from being a casual user to becoming someone who can precisely steer what the model creates. To get there, first, we've got to peek under the hood a little bit. How do these things actually work? It's all built on a surprisingly simple idea, believe it or not. See, at its heart, an LLM isn't thinking in the human sense. It's a massively powerful prediction engine. It just looks at the text you gave it, and based on all the data it was trained on, it makes a really good statistical guess about the very next word, or sometimes just a piece of a word, which we call a token, that should come next. And that's the whole game. The model takes your prompt, it predicts one single token, then it tacks that new token onto the end of the input, and it does it all over again. It's kind of like building something with Legos, one tiny piece at a time, where each new brick you place helps decide where the very next one should go. Okay, so if it's just predicting, how do we steer it? Well, lucky for us, we're given a control panel. And on that panel, there are 3 main dials that let us mess with that prediction process directly. These are the names you gotta know: temperature, top K, and top P. They're what we call sampling controls, and really understanding what these do is probably the biggest step you can take toward getting consistently great results. All right, let's start with temperature. Just think of this as your creativity dial. If you turn it way down low, the output gets really factual, super focused, and kind of safe. But if you crank it up high, you start to get more creative, more diverse, and sometimes completely random stuff. So what's it actually doing? Well, temperature messes with the probabilities of the model's choices. If you set the temperature to 0, the model will always pick the single most likely next token. It's deterministic. It'll give you the same answer every time. But as you turn that dial up, the model gets a little more adventurous. It's more willing to take a chance on less likely words. And that's exactly where that creativity comes from. Next up, we've got top K. I want you to think of this one like putting blinders on the model. A low setting gives it tunnel vision, right? It makes its choices really restrictive and safe. But a high setting, well, that widens its field of view, letting it consider a lot more options for much more varied output. It's really just a hard cutoff. So if you set top K to, say, 10, the model figures out all the possible next tokens, but it's only allowed to choose from the 10 most probable ones. Everything else just gets thrown out. Simple as that. And our third dial, top P, is a little more, well, it's more dynamic than top K. A low setting keeps the choices super conservative, only looking at the highest probability words. But a high setting could, in theory, include every single word the model knows. You see, instead of a fixed number of choices like top K, top P, which is sometimes called Nucleus Sampling, works with a probability budget. If you set top P to 0.9, the model starts listing the most likely words and just keeps adding them to the pool of possibilities until their combined probability hits 90%. Sometimes that might only be a few tokens. Other times it could be dozens. It's adaptive, and that makes it really powerful. Okay, so that's the theory. But how do you actually use this stuff? Let's look at some starting configurations you can use right out of the box. Just think of this table as your little cheat sheet. If you're doing something factual, like asking for code or a math solution, you want 0 randomness, so you put temperature in your 0. For a good, balanced, coherent response, your everyday tasks, that middle row is a fantastic place to start. And then, when you want to brainstorm or write a story, you crank that temperature way up and open up top P and top K to invite in some of that creative chaos. Now that you know how to use the controls, you also have to know the traps. Because these dials, they interact in really powerful ways, and one wrong setting can throw everything off. And here's the absolute crucial thing to get. Extreme settings will override the others. If your temperature is 0, the model has to pick the single most likely token, which means your top K and top P settings don't do anything at all. In the same way, if you set top K to 1, there's only one option to choose from, so temperature and top P become totally useless. You have to tune them together. This all leads to a really important warning. Have you ever seen an AI just get Stuck? Where it starts repeating the same word or phrase over and over and over again? Well, there's a reason for that. It's known as the repetition loop bug. It's what happens when the model kind of gets backed into a corner, often because of a bad combination of these very settings we're talking about. It falls into a statistical rut, and it just can't find its way out. So what's the big takeaway here? Learning about temperature, top K, and top P isn't just about tweaking for fun. It's about preventing common errors, like those annoying repetition loops. It's about turning a generic tool into a precise instrument that gives you powerful, tailored results whenever you want them. So the next time you write a prompt, you're not just a user anymore. You have the control panel. The only real question left is, what are you going to build with it? Are you going to be an engineer who demands precision, an artist who's looking for creativity, or something else entirely? The choice, now, is finally yours.